So thanks for the intro, Sarah. So it's this time of the year where we can look behind our shoulders and analyze a bit what we've done, what are the lessons learned, what was good, what was bad, and also maybe define the plans for next year, including personal development, company, etc. And so looking behind the shoulder, I think the journey so far for us was pretty crazy, a hell of a drive. So we started PropTech Lab 7 years ago, and we had all the youth sickness possible. So from misalignment with co-founders, from less than a 1 month runway for 2 years, so like threat of bankruptcy for almost 2 years. We also pivoted from a consultancy firm to more of a membership platform for scalability. We shifted from an offline community to an online platform. We had to think about, are we going for exclusivity with super expensive membership fees or more for volume with low membership fees, but then we have to handle a big volume of operations. And so all of these things really happened, right? And so if I look at really just the past 12 months, it was for me, I think, a year of questions. Call it the crisis of the 30s, or call it maybe the daddyhood, because I'm a recent father, or maybe just doubt in meaning of life or stuff like this. But I asked myself a lot of questions, trying to reinvent myself, and the majority of the questions remain unanswered, obviously, which is probably the same for everyone. But I did find some learnings this year, and I also wanted to share some of these learnings, which are not related to PropTech. So I will speak about something I know less. So I take risk, but I'm happy. One of the first lessons is something that my friend Thomas Onnenberg, who is not in the room today, told me. Entrepreneurship is believing in the future. And so I think one of my lessons this year was to remain optimistic. I was always a positive thinker, and I think it's very important to remain this. Another great lesson from this year, as my dear Wolfgang is saying, is that entrepreneurship is about contributing to society. And I think we were at PropTech Lab never really driven, or never driven at all, by having megalomaniac projects like Neom, which can be for the fame, for the money, for the spotlight, or stuff like this. We are more driven by the idea of having a positive impact on society and to contribute to do the digital and sustainable transformation of the sector. And so this idea of impact is really what drives us in this crazy roller coaster, when sometimes we have multiple ups and downs in the same day, like all the companies, I guess, right? But it was sometimes painful, but very inspiring, and we keep on pushing forward thanks to this idea of having positive impact, right? This being said, what is my next slide? Yes. The thing is, when you have big dreams, it also comes with a danger. There is a cost in ambitions, and so I give a lot of thoughts about this year. What is the cost of ambitions? What is the cost of success? What should you be willing to sacrifice if you want to have a success, right? And so I thought that maybe there are actually 3 different types of ambitions, and with these types of ambitions come associated risks if you focus too much on them. And so first you have probably the performance ambition, which is to improve your performance or your team performance. Second is the growth ambition, which is to reach new level of mastery, personally or with new skills. And the last one is achievement ambition, which is to get the desired reward in a way. And so the risks associated with these are basically that if you have too much, like if you focus on the performance ambition, the first one, either you can set yourself for failure, because if you have too much ambitions or too much project or too high goals, it's unachievable, and so you set yourself for failure. Another risk is, of course, that you lose people's trust. So you have to be very careful about this, or we have. When it comes to the growth ambition, the risks are waste efforts and learn without application. So if you constantly want to learn, but if it's useless for what you do, or another risk is the idea of insecurities or the imposter syndrome. You don't want to take part in any debate if you don't master the thing, but we are never really expert in anything at the end of the day. And the last problem, or the last risk with the achievement ambition is probably that you get perceived by people as greedy or self-interested. And at the society level, of course, it can give excess of individualism, even more than today. And so I reflected a bit on this, and I think probably we shouldn't do a trade-off between changing the world and changing ourselves. We have to do a bit of both, focus a bit of changing ourselves and focus a bit of changing the world. And this was the deepest part of my talk. I usually do this only when I'm super tired on Fridays. It's true, it's the Fridays that I'm deep and philosophical. But normally on Mondays and Tuesdays, I'm fun. And so I also wanted to add a bit of humor in the presentation. And so I wanted to share, I said to the team once, don't you think that the dream would be that being a member of PropTech Lab is something that also comes from the heart, not only the brain, right? And so the dream would be maybe that members are super proud, super happy, like they love the community, they love the other members, etc., etc. And so we brainstormed a bit about this idea, and then we came with this idea to launch a marketplace of merchandising where people can purchase PropTech Lab stuff, and they would be so proud to wear them at the office or at the gym, etc. And so we have all the most funny stuff like t-shirts, PropTech Lab, we have sweatshirts, we have jackets. But we have also the tote bag, which is very good to remind the Silex, and for the ones that think that, and for the ones who think that technology cannot support anything, we still need to work with pen and paper. We also have the Super Silex Lab pencil. And for the one who thinks that innovation should happen inside the comfort zone, and that want to really improve the world by staying in their sofa, we have also the Silex Lab sleepers. So available on webshop.proptechlab.be. And to end up this first part, I also wanted to share one of the moments that was for me the most rewarding. It was actually 30 minutes on the next slide, followed by a super cold shower. So the first 30 minutes I was actually with Prakshit in Kent for a keynote of a life cycle event where I was invited to speak about decarbonizing real estate thanks to PropTech, and I had my son Isao with me. I was forced to manage him for some reasons, and so everything went well until when I went on stage. I have my opening punchline to do the ice breaking, and at this moment he screams and he wants to run on stage. And so I was forced to pick him in my shoulders for 30 minutes to speak about to try to speak about how to decarbonize real estate. And after only 30 seconds, he wanted to go down again and do the mess, etc. And so finally, Prakshit grabbed him, and so I could start my session. So he almost missed my session, but I was very proud of this moment of having him on stage. And 30 minutes after, it was the cold shower, because I realized that my pants zipper was open during all my talk. And so I can tell you that now I'm checking this every time. But this being said, what happened in 22? So we think, we started the year with this image of saying that now it's the year of bifurcation of real estate, where on one hand you will have the laggers that have the mentality, if it's not broken, don't fix it, we don't optimize tools, we don't optimize process, we don't change what we do. And on this side you have the innovators. And so we said this year there will be a rising gap between them two. And it didn't happen yet. So we are far from our dreams, we are far from being in this world. And I will even be more provocative in a way. You might know Nas, a rapper, and so he was saying, I think 10 or 20 years ago, that hip-hop was dead. And we think that today, in a way, PropTech is dead. And why? Because we think that PropTech became an obsolete term, because it now became mainstream. It should be part of any construction real estate project. You cannot build without a roof, without a wall, as well without PropTech or innovation in general. And so we think it became a synonym of real estate. It's an essential component in any building. But at the same time, there is new terminology or verticals appearing, call it retrofit tech, because 70% of the buildings in 2050 are already here today. So 70% of the buildings in 2050 are already here today. So it means the retrofit will be a huge topic. And so there is some different terminology of PropTech vertical only dedicated to retrofitting. There is another terminology which is urban tech, which considers that PropTech was focusing inside square meters, but now you have to have square meters that can, you have to have multiple buildings that should be able to be interconnected. And so it's not PropTech anymore, but it's at the level of a city, and so it also includes energy, mobility, agriculture, etc. So these are new thematics that didn't exist a year ago. This being said, PropTech is not only high tech, and this I can't stress enough. You have to consider that tech means tool for change. And so it can be low tech innovations, it can be business model innovations, it can be technical innovations, new construction materials, etc. So it's way bigger than just high tech, right? And so this is the hardest part of my keynote. And I have to do something. So I'm not Idriss anymore. I'm just a normal person, a barista, or maybe an accountant or a lawyer, or I don't know. And so I just want to show you how, because we were dreaming about this world when we started the year, right? And I just want to show you that we're not there yet, but still PropTech dominates any aspect of our daily lives. And so I just want to share how a typical day in the life of someone can look like. So my name is George, for instance, right? I wake up at 5:45 in the morning. And so I go to take a shower with incense, and thanks to this smart shower, I can spend 50% less of the water. Then at 5:30, let's say, I take the car. No, I first go to a terrace which is shared by the other inhabitants of the building to see the sunrise with the coffee. And probably after this shared terrace will be a co-working space around midday, because mutualization of square meters is very important. At 7:45 or 7:22, doesn't matter, I arrive at the office. And I see that I forgot my badge, so I cannot access the building. But it's not a problem because I have unlocked, so I can open the parking and the gate of the office with my phone. And then at 2:08, I go to I enter the office and I look at, thanks to Spacewell, in which floor I should go, in which seat is empty, right, to work. And at 9, my first visitor checks in with proxy click, and so I get a notification on my phone, and I don't need to go down and up and to pick him up, etc. So all the visitor management is automated. At 9:45, I wanted to call someone, and a week ago my phone didn't go in the office, it didn't work well because low network coverage. But now, thanks to WaveTrue, I have an excellent internet connection and phone network, etc., etc. So I will maybe speed up this part because it can be very long. At 11:30, I leave my meeting, which was in Liège somewhere, and I don't have time to go back to the office, but by chance there is a work hero location, so I can just activate it and take some time to work there, right? And then after, which use case are we going to say? I'm back at the office around 1, and I see that the sink of the water doesn't work anymore, and so I take a picture and I send it to the facility manager thanks to YourBest, and thanks to Pinpoint, they already notified the insurance company, so I don't need to do anything. And we look at, and thanks to Shape, we realize that in fact we have a big leak, water leakage 3 floors downstairs, etc., etc., etc. In fact, it's very long. But the big idea is to actually say that PropTech can really solve a big headache in Mr. Everyone's head, George, because the majority of the problems we face are often the most painful experience of people happen within walls. And so PropTech could automate this, or could decrease this, or could solve a bit of everyone's headache. But on top of this is of course way bigger, because PropTech can solve some of the biggest issues that the construction and real estate is facing. The fact that you have energy crisis, climate change, rising cost of construction materials, you have the fact that real estate projects are more and more complex, etc., etc. But ultimately, and should we again remind it, 50%, 40% of the CO2 emissions come from the real estate sector. We have 2.7 degree increase. We have the rising waters. And so, of course, PropTech is the biggest way to solve the planet. Only this. And I don't know if you looked in Google, like a world map with 100 meters of ocean rise. You almost have no Brazil anymore. By chance, Italy is saved because of like interior ocean, but so it's really impressive, and it's going to happen, the rising of oceans, obviously. So this was the end of, no, not yet, soon. And all of these changes are actually happening because VCs are investing a lot in PropTech, and my friend Gregory De Werp from AO PropTech was saying there was never such an influx of founders willing to tackle the issues of construction and real estate. And we can see this with all the VC numbers, right? You can see the rising amount. I think today it's something around 150 billions that were invested in PropTech historically, around 36 just in 2022. And on top of this, we analyzed all the growth of all the PropTech startups and scale-ups from PropTech Lab and Lux PropTech, and the majority of them grow at more than 100% year on year. So the change is happening, right? And finally, the last component, which is the most important to make the change happen, is the real estate corporates. And we also see that they do amazing innovative projects for some of them. We're really proud of a few of them. I cannot present all the projects, but there are a lot of great innovations. There is still a bit of reluctance to change for some of them, which are not in the room, because the room are filled with the innovators. But the ones that are not in the room often have this mentality, if it's not broken, don't fix it. And we will not innovate because we don't have time to innovate. Yeah, sure. The last problem that causes slow adoption of PropTech in real estate is the triangular problem of real estate. You have an owner, you have a manager, you have an end user, but we don't really know who should pay, who benefits, and who decides. And so this is a big problem for a lot of PropTech startups. And now it's the end of my first part. I still have, like, how many time? Do we have a timer? Enough time? Cool. Okay. Well, the highlights of the year, and this is the part where we speak about you members. So on our side, well, we have events, content, value-added services, as you know. So we organized 13 events, 760 attendees, and 100 speakers, including today. So that was quite a dense year. On our platform, we have 550 users. We have 270 companies that are registered, 60 hours of knowledge, content, video. And in terms of the value-added services, so that Sarah manages, we can help startups raising capital, do buyer persona, sales acceleration, M&A, etc., etc. And for the real estate corporates, we can advise on the vision of innovation, do fast track to innovation, do pitch of startups. We can do a lot of things. And we also launched Recap with our partners Revive. And this was a big success so far, but I mean, we are on our road to have a big success because we have 6 corporate partners and we accelerate 10 startups that are related to ESG. And for the corporates, our ambition is to improve their ESG performance to help them to become ESG pioneers, right? And we want to shout out tonight to all our most champions of adoptions. So these are the members that have the most, that are champions basically, that come to all the events, that book value-added services, that get keynotes, etc., etc. And we have a lot of members that are here, and it's our challenge to bring them up in here to make sure that we are relevant. And the worst case scenario is our members to be here, of course, where they adopted everything and it was not useful for them. So we had 70 new members in 22, which brings us to 280 today. Shout outs to the most veterans ones who were there since day 0, so it's 5 years now. And also good luck to the ones who decided to go back to the Stone Age, leaving us, unfortunately, but it's us who failed, obviously. And to end up, it brings us to 280 members. And we can divide them also in the revenue pyramid. And it's very good because on the corporate side, we have 85% of our corporates who have 1% dedicated to innovation today, and it was less than 30% of them a year ago. So we can really see that they become way more mature in terms of innovation. And what's next to end up? We think there is often a translation problem between the startup narrative and the corporate views, and so we think it's not only PropTech and corporate or in construction real estate, it's just startup and corporates. And so to facilitate this language, this contact, these conversations, we asked our members, dear startup, what is it that you want from corporates in terms of information? And so basically they said, for us, startup, what matters is what are your pain points of the sector? How many FTEs do you have in terms of the teams of marketing? Do you have an innovation team, etc.? Do you have a budget allocated to innovation? What are the tools that you use today? And how many construction sites do you have? And what is the size of your portfolio? These are the top 5. So we will do our best to capture this information and to give it to the startup. And on the corporate side, what are the questions they want to get answers to is, who are your customers' referrals? And so if you share the referrals, the corporates, maybe it can already speed up the conversation. What is your turnover? What is your year-on-year growth? Who are your competitors and what are your USPs compared to them? And your value proposition, I think this is pretty obvious. And so we will do our best again to provide to corporates these informations, to facilitate conversations, right? And we hope to see you in the next 10 events that we organize. We organize a trip to London as well in partnership with Hub Brussels. And that's it.